This entitled grandma thinks this Nintendo Switch is causing satanic rituals and wants it destroyed.
Please, no! No!
But a surprise hero comes along to save the day and serve justice to the entitled grandma. Happy birthday if today's your birthday, and on with the show. So, a bit of backstory. I, 20 male, train in a park near home that has had some equipment for free body workouts, and I bring my elastic bands and jump rope with me. The park is quite big, and most of it is a playground for kids, but that is separated from the structures I use by a line of trees. Space is not an issue, and I like it because very few people train there. I had a person saying that I could not be there because the park is for kids, but there's no sign that tells a maximum age, and I do my stuff without annoying anyone. Also, the bars are too high to be used by a 10-year-old. The other day, I was doing my usual workout after a study session. It really relaxes my mind. It was like 6 PM, and the breeze really helped to relieve the sultriness of my area in this period of the year. I had finished my pull-ups and started unpacking my elastic bands. They have handles and can be secured to a structure with a carabiner, so you can do more exercises. I don't mind when kids come near me or watch me. Sometimes I also offer them my jump rope or some lighter band to play with if they are not too young, as if it slips from your hands it could hurt. Most of them are really well behaved and always ask first and put the stuff back when they are finished. Also, most of the parents watch their kids when they are near me and ask if I mind their presence. I obviously don't. So here's the cast. Me, AK annoying kid, EM, who else but entitled mum. I'm with my air dots on, so I don't really hear much. I'm finishing my exercise with my bands when I turn my head and notice that one of them is missing from behind me. They have bright colors and I put them near my backpack, so it is quite easy to find them. Of course, annoying kid took one. It must be like 6 years old, so he should at least know to ask, but it's not a big deal. He's pulling it and trying to use it as a rope, so I gently approach him. Hey kid, this is mine. You should ask before taking other people's things. It was in the park so everybody can take it. Actually, it was near my backpack. I brought it here to train. You can use it, but be careful and ask next time. At this point, the kid just throws the band on the ground and goes away, ticked. I thought that he was going to play with something else, but oh boy, I was wrong. He comes back with entitled mum, whining about the fact that he couldn't play with that. I'm sorry, why are you bothering my child? I just told him he should ask before taking my stuff. Why are you even in the park in the first place? Kids play here. It isn't a place for grown-ups. It's not like I'm going on the slide or something. These structures are for adults and anybody can stay here. It's a public place. But why should you train here? Kids are watching. Well, I'm not doing anything bad. I'm just doing some exercises. It's not like I'm setting a bad example. I stopped talking because I see AK using the bands I had secured on the structure. The bands can develop quite some traction, about 40 kilograms and more. And if you're not careful, you can get slingshotted and injure yourself. I immediately tell him to stop and to go away from there. But EM keeps arguing with me and tells me to mind my business. She is the mother. AK is dangerously trying to imitate what I was doing. A pulley, but standing up. I don't want the kid to get hurt, but the kid pulls with all his weight on the bands. Newton's third law does its job, and AK falls on the ground and starts crying. EM goes absolutely nuts. See, you hurt my baby. It's all your fault. I should call the police. I tried to warn you, but you were too busy arguing about nothing. How dare you? You shouldn't be here in the first place, bringing dangerous stuff in a playground. What the heck are you saying? You should watch your kid. I'm not his babysitter. The argument goes on for a bit until she realizes that some parents are coming to see what's going on. She tries to make me look bad and yells that I hurt her kid, but fortunately, most of the people know me and they don't take the bait. EM stops all the drama and leaves the park with the kid covered in dirt. I could understand if there was some random adult playing on a kid's playground. You might be like, hey, that's kind of weird and not cool. But if they're literally using the equipment that's used for adults to work out, often those have signs saying kids aren't supposed to use those equipment. How can you claim that it's for kids only? That doesn't make any sense. It's a public place and it's designed for adults. If you really want a place that's just for kids, then go to a play center and just pay like $10 for them to go in there. In the cast, EM entitled Mum, IK innocent kid, NO Navy officer, me the one and only. The backstory. For context, this was in the US around mid-May. This was during the virus and I was 13 when this happened. My family, which consisted of me, my mom and my dad, went to visit my uncle who lives in Boston, Massachusetts. If you're non-American, Boston is well known for their Revolutionary War memorials and sites. To catch you up, the Revolutionary War was basically when a bunch of farmers, with the help of the French and a few other European countries, defeated the world's best military for our independence. The main story. On our first day, we decided to visit this area, I forget the name, that had a museum and a wooden ship which was used during the war nearby. My family was having lunch at a close restaurant which was connected to the museum. I had finished early and was allowed to look at the ship. The ship was enclosed and surrounded by a navy port. I was nearby and I hear this demonic screech. I swore it sounded like the devil himself ripped a hole in the earth and wanted to deafen anybody in a 10-mile radius. I look over and see this overweight Karen screaming at a Navy officer. She even had the haircut. Beside her was this young boy who looked to be around 6. "No ma'am, you can't enter here. Civilians aren't allowed. If I'm wrong about you, please provide some government identification." "Bullcrap. I know for a fact this is part of the museum. I demand you to let us enter." "Mommy, you promised I could get on the big boat." "Shut up, kid's name. Don't make me regret having you, you impatient little crap." "Ma'am, this is my last warning. You could leave right now or I will assist you and have you charged for trespassing on government property."
"I paid for my ticket. Let me in."
I decided I had enough of her and decided to help the Navy officer. Granted, he could have handled it himself, but my empathy levels were off the charts. "Lady, you need to leave. This is obviously a Navy port. I hope your 2 brain cells can connect the dots. There's people in camouflage uniform with US Navy embroidered on the shirt, a checkpoint 15 feet away from you, and a giant metal ship with a cannon protruding out of it."
"Quiet, you brat. You need to respect your elders."
She notices the mask I'm wearing.
"You probably voted for Hillary, you
racial slur. I began to laugh hysterically at that moment. However, I could see where she's coming from. Since my dad is basically a giant, I inherited some pretty big genes. I was 13 and around 6'1" at the time. Most people may think I'm in high school, but this was the oldest I've been estimated. The only one who said I was older was a 3-year-old who thought I had just graduated college. "Lady, I'm barely a teenager. I can't drive, yet alone vote."
"You're lying. Give me your license."
I'm holding in my laughter at this point. I just told you, I don't have one. I guess her rage boiled over at that point. She lunged at me, which I processed as her attempting to grab my mask. When I was younger, I had taken Taekwondo lessons and had played baseball for a majority of my life. These activities greatly increased my fighting abilities, hand-eye coordination, and reaction time. In instinct, I ducked and punched her in the chest. The Karen landed on the pavement, grasping for air. After close to 10 seconds passed with her breathing normally, me and the Navy officer knew something was off. I called 911 for an ambulance, while the officer who was being heckled performed first aid. A female officer who was nearby had, unbeknownst to me, called the police. She also began calming the boy who was bawling. I regret hitting the woman. The only reason I regret it is because of the kid. I hoped he isn't traumatized. The ambulance and cop car arrived. The lady was rushed off while the police learned of what happened and began to question me and the Navy officers. A few weeks go by, we go home, and I get a call from my uncle. He told me what happened to EM. EM had apparently been charged with assault on a minor and government trespassing. He had also told me that he received a bill in the mail from EM. She apparently wanted us to pay her medical bills. I guess I decked her hard enough that she had broken ribs, which punctured her lung. My uncle, being a lawyer, knew her claim was bogus and threw it away. It's been 2 months, so I think I'm out of the clear. For a lot of people, when it comes to fight or flight, sometimes they can't control themselves and they're going to react to you lunging at them. It's an involuntary reaction to you trying to attack them. Even if they don't mean to hurt you, you might get seriously hurt. I guess some people just think they can get away with anything and there's no consequences whatsoever. And in this case, that didn't happen. Several things to know beforehand. Number 1, Skyrim Special Edition is indeed available for the Nintendo Switch. Number 2, my Switch has an eShop account. 3, it has my sister's and mother's profiles on it. Number 4, it's connected to my phone for notifications and parental controls. Disclaimer, this will contain some spoilers for Skyrim for those who haven't played it, but for the sons and daughters of Skyrim, please continue. The cast: Cookie, me of course, EGM, entitled Grandma, NGD, nice grandpa who helped me, EGK 12345, entitled Grandkids 1 to 5, AS Airport Security. So this happened on the 5th of July. I was on a plane to go back to my hometown because I was in Florida to visit my grandparents for summer, but I had a 5-hour layover in Dallas. For those of you who don't know what that is, essentially, it's when you have to wait for the plane you need next to get there from another trip. So yeah, pretty bummed out about that, but there was a Chili's burger place right down the hall from my next gate, so I grabbed a bite to eat and sat down at one of the single-person charge stations to mess around on my Switch because it has a crap battery life. So there I was with my Switch playing Skyrim. I was doing the Dragonborn DLC, where I had to go and meet with her mouse Mora, the Daedric Prince of Knowledge and Fate, and obtain the second word of Bendwell, just as I was about to begin the first steps to get to that point, which is traveling through a hellish library filled with monsters and ink pools from Bendy and the Ink Machine, but with a greenish tint. Also, this library is another dimension, and you have to read a book to progress to the next area or chapter, as it's called by the game. These 5 little banshees were jumping all over the seats and yelling, and didn't have masks on either. One of them saw my Switch and immediately came over to play on it. I was wearing my mask and earbuds to play, and these 5 little craps came over and started demanding that I let them play games that aren't on the Switch, like hide and seek, movies, books, and they wanted it right then and there. Like heck I would. So they kept after me until I gave up and started to put it away. That's when Grandma and Grandpa showed up.
Why are you wearing a mask?
Because there's a global pandemic going on around us.
Oh, that's just to get rid of sinners. The good Lord has sent this down and true believers will be spared from it.
Okay. Well, I'm off to my next flight. That's when one of her little craps grabbed my Switch and screamed and threw it at me. She saw the monster in Apocrypha, the library dimension as I call it. Then their grandma saw it too. Crap hit the fan at this point. The woman let out an unholy screech and said at the top of her lungs,
"You're performing satanic rituals on my grandchild's iPhone!"
At this point, I wonder if Entitleds even know what a Nintendo Switch is. Then the crowd started to form.
"I will purge you of your sins and destroy this object of Satan."
She reached for my Switch, but I had already put it in my bag. So she grabbed my bag and started a game of tug of war with it. Her little craps kept kicking me and scratching me, telling me to listen to their all-knowing grandma. Then security showed up, thank goodness. They got EGM off of me, and her brats too. Then this conversation happened.
"Sir, arrest this sinner and take him to a priest. He stole my grandkid's game and started performing satanic rituals on it."
It's Skyrim Elder Scrolls V Special Edition Dragonborn DLC. It's a level I have to beat.
See, he's talking about demons and scrolls of sin.
NGD then showed up.
"What the heck is going on over here? This sinner must be brought."
Yeah, I think you got the good Lord to hear you in the whole darn airport too. EGM just looked shocked at this info. Everyone went quiet too. "Now then, kid," he referred to me. "What's your side?" "Well, sir, I was just playing my game, and then her grandkids started acting like they had rabies and ran over to me and said they wanted to play it. I said no, and then this woman
"That's a lie. The good Lord will smite you down for lying to a true believer. He took my grandkid's iPhone and started that satanic ritual on it."
3 things wrong with what you said. Number 1, it's a Nintendo Switch. Number 2, what I do with it is none of your business. And 3, you tried to steal it. And there's almost an entire airport full of witnesses, so try another one. Silence was blessed upon us at that moment. Her brats were just shocked at this info.
"Well then, let's see what you're doing with that Switch."
I showed him the level, my character, the active quests, etc. Then one of her brats nabbed it out of my hands and ran it back to her grandma.
"This is mine. You stole it. You..."
She was cut off when I pulled out out my phone and remotely shut down the switch with my app. She tried to turn it back on, then just walked over to a garbage can and threw it in. Why the heck would you do that?
Because it was dead.
That's because it turned off with my phone, you little twit.
Don't you yell at my precious granddaughter, you sinner!
NGD whistles really freaking loud.
Enough!
He went over and fished my switch out of the garbage can. It only sustained a small scratch on its protective case. He then pulled out a badge, and it was a badge that no entitled B wants to see. He was a cop, thank goodness. He arrested her, and she kept screaming about how everyone there was in the cult too. Yada yada yada. Usual entitled, overly religious things to say.
Now that's that. I suggest you get to your gate and stay there.
Yes sir, thank you sir.
No problem.
So, a bit of amazing luck turns out that EGM and her EGKs were supposed to be on our flight, but missed the flight, as the attendant put it. It's always good to finish a story with a bit of justice at the end. It's almost good in a way that this incident happened. Can you imagine if he was stuck on a plane the entire time with the entitled family causing havoc? It would have been a nightmare with literally no escape. Submit your story to be read on the channel at voiceyherestories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.